Welcome to Sparks of History, where Jewish history and world history meet. We are extremely pleased to have with us today Professor Ephraim Kanarfogel. Dr. Kanarfogel received his BA from Yeshiva College and an MA and PhD from the Bernard Revel Graduate School of Jewish Studies at Yeshiva University. Professor Kanarfogel also received Rabbinical ordination from REITS, the Rabbi Elchanan Theological Seminary. Professor Kanarfogel is the Billi Ivry University Professor of Jewish History, Literature, and Law at Bernard Revel, and also at Stern College for Women. Dr. Kanarfogel is considered to be one of the foremost scholars of medieval Jewish history and rabbinic literature. Professor Kanarfogel has written, edited numerous books, including, but not limited to, Jewish Education and Society in the High Middle Ages, the Intellectual History and Rabbinic Culture of Medieval Ashkenaz, Brothers from Afar, Rabbinic Approaches to Apostasy and Reversion in Medieval Europe, Between Rashi and Maimonides, Studies in Medieval Jewish Thought, Literature, and Exegesis, and Scholarly Man of Faith, Studies in the Thought and Writing of Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik of blessed memory. And today we will be discussing the Talmudic commentaries, the Tosafot. And just to get started, sometimes you're at the table and people aren't that familiar with the Talmud, and you say, "Oh, I learned the Tosafot today," and they say, "Who is that?" As it's a commentary, but we know that it's many people. Generally speaking, who are the Tosafot, and why are they called by that name?
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your precise introduction. Very good. In a word, as you suggested, we are not dealing with, as we do when we deal with Rashi, a single author, more or less, or as we deal with Maimonides, or as we deal with Nachmanides, or whoever it may be. We are dealing with a conglomeration, a conglomerate. The conglomerate can be defined by time, it can be defined by location. The earliest Tosafists are really in the mid-12th century. A name like Rabbeinu Tam, Yaakov Tam, a famous name, is one of the earliest, not the earliest, I don't think, but one of the earliest. And it runs through the end of the 13th century, both in northern France, in different places. There are different centers, and that shifts, and in different places in Germany, the Rhineland, and later more to the east in Germany as well. And so to be a Tosafist, you don't have to write Tosafot per se, but you have to be involved somehow in the study halls that produce those Tosafot. That's sort of how we define it. Again, there are readers or listeners who might know more or less. You might know that the Tosafot on the printed Talmud are fundamentally from northern France. Those are the ones that made it in, and we could talk later about some of that. But there were Tosafot written in Germany, and there were other works written in Germany that are Tosafot-like in terms of both method and perspective. You're not dealing with hundreds of people. You're dealing with tens of people. It's a little bit of for the Americanized listeners, a Wizard of Oz phenomenon. It's a relatively small number of people producing an awful lot of literature with an awful lot of different perspectives. But again, there are circles, there are Batei Midrash and centers that can be identified. We know, I think, most of them, if not all of them by now. We are learning more about what each one did. And Tosafot means addenda. What are they addendering to? They're addendaing, not a verb, to the Talmud itself. In other words, they're expanding and not free-forming, but they're applying the Talmud. But they're also studying very carefully Rashi's words. Their ancestor, he's not the father of all of them, but their ancestor and sort of founder of this Ashkenazi group. And therefore, they are doing the same kinds of things to Rashi himself. Again, short summary, and I'll let you talk some more. First of all, close reading. Why does the Gemara pick this word and not that word? People think of Tosafot, dialectic. We compare, we contrast. Before you dialectize, also not a verb, you have to read. close reading. Why this word? Why not that word? They do the same thing with the Gemara. They do the same thing with Rashi. I like to joke. They check the Gemara and Rashi's tzitzis first, right? They want to make sure the words are correct. Why is that word being used? That word suggests something subordinate. That word suggests something more critical. And then after that close reading, they will correlate and collate. How does this compare to any other Talmudic literature? And in many cases, even extra Talmudic literature, rabbinic literature. And if we find seeming contradictions, how do we resolve those? And how do we apply the distinctions that we derive from those resolutions? They'll do that to Tosafot, they'll do that to Rashi, they'll basically do that to anything that moves. But the things that move for them are these main bodies. So how's that for a long answer to a short question?
Yeah, that's a great answer
to be my
question, to a basic question.